Good evening. My name is Joseph Sipitz. I'm here for the St. Joseph County Public Library. It's time for another Saturday night story. And as you can see, my Yoda candle, his head is completely burned down to nothing, and his ears have fallen to the floor. So I believe, and also I have my friend James candle over here. Burning in support. So I believe we are ready for a story. And tonight I have one from the Neil Gaiman collection called Fragile Things. Here it is. And this is called 15 Painted Cards from a Vampire Tarot. Zero, the Fool. What do you want? The young man had come into the graveyard every night for a month now. He had watched the moon paint the cold granite and the fresh marble and the old moss-covered stones and statues in the cold light. He had started out shadows and at owls, and he had watched courting couples and drunks and teenagers taking nervous shortcuts, all the people who came through the graveyard at night. He slept in the day. Nobody cared. He stood alone in the night and shivered in the cold, and it came to him as he was standing there on the edge of a precipice. The voice came from the night all around him, in his head and out of it. What do you want? It repeated. He wondered if he dared to turn around and look, and realized he did not. Well, you come here every night to a place where the living are not welcome. I have seen you. Why? I wanted to meet you, he said, without looking around. I want to live forever. His voice cracked as he said it. He had stepped over the precipice. There was no going back. In his imagination, he had already felt the prick of the needle-sharp fangs in his neck, and the sharp prelude to eternal life. The sound began. It was low and sad, like the rushing of an underground river. It took him several long seconds to recognize it as laughter. This is not life, said the voice. It said nothing more, and after a while, the young man knew he was alone in the graveyard. 1. The magician. They asked Saint Germain's manservant if the master was truly 1,000 years old, as it was rumored he had claimed. How would I know? The man replied. I have only been in the master's employ for 300 years. 2. The priestess. Her skin was pale, her eyes were dark, and her hair was dyed black. She went on a daytime talk show and proclaimed herself a vampire queen. She showed the cameras her dentally crafted fangs and brought on ex-lovers who, in various stages of embarrassment, admitted that she had drawn their blood and that she drank it. You can be seen in a mirror, though, asked the talk show hostess. She was the richest woman in America and had got that way by bringing the freaks and the hurt and the lost out in front of her cameras and showing their pain to the world. The studio audience laughed. The woman seemed slightly affronted. Yes, contrary to what people may think, vampires can be seen in mirrors and on television cameras. Well, that's one thing you finally got right, honey, said the hostess of the daytime talk show. But she put her hand over the microphone as she said it, and it was never broadcast. 5. The Pope. This is my body, he said 2,000 years ago. This is my blood. It was the only religion that delivered exactly what it promised, life eternal for its adherents. There were some of us alive today who remember him, and some of us who claim that he was a Messiah, and some who think that he was just a man with very special powers. But that misses the point. Whatever he was, he changed the world. 6. The Lovers. After she was dead, she began to come to him in the night. He grew pale, and there were deep circles under his eyes. At first it was thought that he was mourning her, but then one night he was gone. It was hard for them to obtain permission to disinter her, but they got it. They hauled up the coffin and unscrewed the lid. Then they prized what they found out of the box. There were 6 inches of water in the bottom. The iron had colored it deep orange red, and there were 2 bodies in the coffin. Hers, of course, and his. His was more decayed than she was. Later, someone wondered aloud how both of them had fitted in the coffin built for one. Especially given her condition, he said, for she was very obviously pregnant. This caused some confusion, for she had not been noticeably pregnant when she was buried. Still later, they dug her up one last time at the request of church authorities who had heard rumors of what had been found in the grave. Her stomach was flat. The local doctor told them all that what it had just been gas and bloating as the stomach swelled. The townsfolk nodded almost as if they believed him. 7. The Chariot. It was genetic engineering at its finest. They created a breed of humans to sail the stars. They needed to be possessed of impossibly long lifespans, for their distances between the stars were vast, space was limited, and their food supplies needed to be compact. They needed to be able to process local sustenance and to colonize the worlds they found with their kind. The home world wished the colonists well and sent them on their way. They removed all traces of the location of the ship's computers first, however, just to be on the safe side. 10. The Wheel of Fortune. What did you do with the doctor? She asked and laughed. I thought the doctor came in here 10 minutes ago. I'm sorry, I said. I was hungry. We both laughed. I'll go find her for you, she said. I sat in the doctor's office picking my teeth. After a while, the assistant came back. I'm sorry, she said. The doctor must have stepped out for a while. Can I make an appointment for you for next week? I shook my head. I'll call, I said. But for the first time that day, I was lying. 11. Justice. It was not human, said the magistrate. It does not deserve the trial of a human being. Ah, said the advocate, but we cannot execute it without a trial. There are precedents. A pig had eaten a child who had fallen into its sty. It was found guilty and hanged. A swarm of bees, found guilty of stinging an old man to death, was burned by public hangman. We owe the hellish creature no less. The evidence against the baby was incontestable. It amounted to this. A man had brought the baby from the country. She had said it was hers and that her husband was dead. She lodged at the house of the coachmaker and the wife, and the old coachmaker complained of melancholia and lassitude, and was, with his wife and their lodger, found dead by their servant. The baby was alive in its cradle, pale, wide-eyed, and there was blood on its face and lips. The jury found the little thing guilty beyond all doubt, and condemned it to death. The executioner was the town butcher. In the sight of all, he cut the babe in two and flung the pieces into fire. His own baby had died earlier in the week. Infant mortality in those days was a hard thing but common. The butcher's wife had been broken-hearted. She had already left the town to see her sister in the city, and within a week the butcher joined her. The three of them, butcher, wife, and babe, made the prettiest family you ever did see. 14. Temperance. She had said she was a vampire. One thing I knew already. The woman was a liar. You could see it in her eyes. Black as coals they were, but they never quite looked at you, staring at invisibles over your shoulder, behind you, above you, 2 inches in front of your face. What does it taste like? I asked her. And that was in parking lot behind the bar. She had worked the graveyard shift in the bar, mixed the finest drinks, but never drank anything herself. VA juice, she said. Not the low-sodium kind, but the original. Or salty gazpacho. What's a gazpacho? Sort of a vegetable soup. You're kidding me. No. So you drink blood, just like I drink V8? Not exactly, she said. If you get sick drinking V8, you can drink something else. Yeah, I said. Actually, I don't like V8 much. See, she said. In China, it's not blood we drink, it's spinal fluid. What's that taste like? Nothing much. Clear broth. You've tried it? I know people. I tried to figure it out if I could see in her reflection in the wing mirror of the truck that we were leaning against, but it was dark and I couldn't tell. 13. 15. The Devil. This is his portrait. Look at the flat, yellow teeth, the ruddy face. His has horns. He carries a long wooden stake in one hand and a wooden mallet in the other. Of course, there's no such thing as the devil. 16. The Tower. The tower is built of spit and spite, without a sound, without a sight. The bitter bit, the bitter bite. It had better be out at night. 17. The Star. The older, richer ones follow the winter, taking the long nights where they can find them. They prefer the northern hemisphere to the south. You see the star? they said, pointing to one of the stars in the constellation of Draco, the dragon. We came from there. One day we shall return. The younger ones sneer and jeer and laugh at this. Still, as the years become centuries, they find themselves becoming homesick for a place they have never been. Find the northern climes reassuring as long as Draco twines in the about the greater and lesser bears up near chill Polaris. 8:19. The sun. Imagine, she said, that there is something in the sky that is going to hurt you, perhaps even kill you. A huge eagle or something. Imagine that you went out in the daylight. The eagle would get you. Well, she said, that's how it is for us. Only it's not a bird. It's a bright, beautiful, dangerous daylight. I haven't seen it now in 100 years. 20. Judgment. It's a way of talking about lust without talking about lust, he told them. It's a way of talking about sex and fear of sex and death and the fear of death. And what else was there to talk about? 22. The world. You know, the saddest thing, she said, the saddest thing is that we're you. I said nothing. In your fantasies, she said, my people are just like you, only better. We don't die or age or suffer from pain or cold or thirst. We're snappier dressers. We possess the wisdom of the ages, and if we crave blood, well, it is no more than the way you people crave food or affection or sunlight, and besides, it gets us out of the house. Crypt coffin, whatever. And the truth is, I asked her, we're you, she said. We're you with all your mess ups and all the things that make you human, all your fears and loneliness and confusions. None of this gets any better. But we're colder than you are, deader, and I miss the daylight and food and knowing how it feels to touch someone and care. I remember life and meeting people as people and not just as things to feed on or control. And I remember what it was like to feel something, anything, happy or sad or anything. And then she stopped. Are you crying? I asked. We don't cry, she told me. Like I said, the woman was a liar. Good night.